today I'm going to be watching the notorious Satantango, a 7-hour film directed by Bela Tarr in 1994. I have the 3-disc artificial eye set, which I'm going to watch a disc, give a review, watch the second disc, give a review, watch the third disc, give a review of the film as a whole. And I'm going to be watching it in one sitting. I'm going to be here for the entire 7-hour run. So I'm going to go right ahead and put the first disc in. I'll see you in 2 hours. Apologies for the slight issue there. Telephone guy came and he sorted my internet out. He was here for about 5 minutes. I'll be continuing the film straight away. So, I have just finished watching disc 1 of Satantango. The time now is 12:41 and I started watching it at 10:25, so that makes it about 2 hours and 20 minutes. So far, fantastic film, absolutely fantastic. It's separated up into 3 sections, this first part. The first one being called The News Is They're Coming, which is about, well, the entire film's set within this small farm area that's bleak, miserable, depressing. The first section follows a man called Futaki and another man and his wife called the Schmitz, and they're planning on leaving this place, so they're gathering enough money to be able to leave, but they're trying to keep it a secret from all the other neighbours because it's quite a small community, so it's quite closed in, and everybody knows everybody's business. They find out towards the end that these 2 guys who were supposedly dead are in the local pub. That worries them quite a bit. We're not too sure why. The second part is called Rise from the Dead, which follows these 2 guys who paid a young boy to spread the rumour that they were dead because they're criminals. And we start with them in some sort of office where they're being told by a man in charge that they've got no work ethic, basically. He's sending them out and saying, you've got to work for me now. So they go out and they're going back to this farm, basically. They cause a bit of trouble in a bar, saying that they're going to blow everybody up. Not too good guys, really. And then that's their side of it. And then the third chapter is called Know Something, and this is a really bizarre one because this kind of is its own sort of thing, really. It doesn't mix with the other 2 sections much. We follow a guy who is the doctor of the town, and he's obese and he's difficult to watch. He is like, every little movement he makes, he grunts oh, he's painful to watch. And basically he just sits in his chair, drinks fruit brandy and smokes cigarettes and looks out the window and writes about people. He fills his books with information about people in the town. He runs out of brandy partway through, realises he needs to leave his house actually to go buy more, which is something that's quite uncommon for him by the looks of things. So he leaves his house, and in the pouring rain he stumbles upon two girls that he knew in the living in the barn of the loft of a barn, sorry, and they're saying that they might not make it through the winter this time because they've got to try and raise money, so they're prostituting themselves to raise money. He goes back, tries to walk back to his house. A boy teases him, he chases him into the woods, collapses, and wakes up in the morning being helped by a guy who we earlier saw in the bar scene, who chucks him in the back of a truck. Overall, fantastic so far, really good. Bleak, really slow paced, every shot is very precise so far, you know. The dialogue is very precise, everything that's being said needs to be said. Lots of moments of just silence and ambience. The black and white looks fantastic so far. Like, the contrast is absolutely fantastic, makes every shot look really nice. The soundtrack, minimal, yet effective. The acting, all the actors seem fantastic. So far these three chapters have been very interesting, and I'm looking forward to watching the second disc. I'm going to go get my packed lunch and I will continue with the second disc straight away. I will have to pause partway through because the internet guy will be coming back at some point, but that shouldn't take too long. So I'll see you in another 2.5 hours. So the internet guy has just been, and I am up and running for internet. So I'm going to finish off the film now. I've got an hour left on this disc, and then the third disc. The time now is 5 to 2. So I'll speak to you in an hour. So, disc 2. So we're given another 3 chapters to this. Chapter 4 is The Spider's Function, which takes place in the bar. We have a drunken man talking quite poetically, until a big guy with a beard barges in, saying, "I've seen these 2 criminals and they're coming." He's drinking and he's telling the story about how he's bumped into these 2 criminals, and Mrs. Schmidt walks in and sits down, and that's really the first bit. It's probably the shortest section so far anyway. Then the next section, which is very peculiar, but this next section starts things tying into each other with like time and that. Like you can tell the time period, like the time frame for each of these sections a little better because of this one. It starts off with a little girl and a little boy. The boy's a bit older, and they're planting some money in the ground to grow a money tree. The little girl goes off, we follow her. She goes to her house. She's forced to sit outside by her mum, which she gets bored with, so she decides to crawl through a gap in a window. She finds a cat in there and proceeds to just torture this cat. She throws it around, she's flicking it, she's playing with it, grabbing its head, saying things like "I'm controlling you" and all this sort of stuff. And then she goes into the house, makes some milk, mixes it with rat poison, and feeds it to the cat and watches it die. Then she carries the cat to the dead cat to the plot in the ground where they buried the money for the money tree. Turns out the boy has stolen it, and he did it all on purpose to steal the money. So she goes round outraged. He doesn't seem to care, tells her to go away. She wanders in the dark, comes across the bar where everybody's dancing and all merry and drunk and that. There's a man playing the accordion and all that sort of stuff, and everybody's dancing. And she watches that for a while. Then she turns around and bumps into the doctor, and she's the girl who harasses the doctor, but it turns out she's not harassing the doctor, she's just trying to talk to him about the dead cat, I think, and he shoos her off and then chases her into the woods. She wanders in the woods at night for a while, finds a spot by a tree and eats the rat poison herself and dies. And that's that little section done. Really slow intro to this section, really subdued section at the beginning. I wasn't too sure where it was going to be going, this section, but it turns out it's probably one of my favourite sections so far. It probably is my favourite section so far, actually. Then we come into the chapter 6, which is the Spider's Function 2, which is the next part of the fourth chapter that we saw. Again, set in the bar. This point later on in the night, from chapter 4, with the last scene in the bar, the guy who's telling the story is now wasted and just swaying backwards and forwards, saying parts of the story constantly, but like out of order, just rambling. We see like everybody seems to be in this bar. They're still talking about these two criminals who are coming. They all get gradually more and more drunk. One of them ends up going outside, throwing up, and eats some bread and that to sober up a bit, and then they drink more, and soon everybody's dancing. The accordion guy, everybody's dancing and that. Mr. Schmidt's balancing some bread on his head for some reason and walking around for ages. I don't really understand that bit. And Mrs. Schmidt is dancing with everybody. And then a man decides to dance with her, Mrs. Schmidt, and asks to tango. They all tango. People start falling asleep. Pretty soon everybody's asleep in the bar. The guy's playing the accordion on his own, and there's a little bit about the spiders making webs and that. And that's the end of this section. This disc overall seemed like the slowest bit yet so far. The first disc seemed a lot faster paced, more plot. Still fantastic. Everything's fantastic about it. The way it looks, the feel, the acting. Again, it's all fantastic. The shots are all brilliant. The black and white's still brilliant. So I'm over the hump now, and I've just got the last disc to watch. So I'm just going to have a slight break, get a drink, and then I'll be back to watch the last part. So I'll see you in a few hours. Right. So I've just finished Satantango. I feel very drained. So disc 3. Now this is a long disc, this. 2 hours, 49 minutes in total. And it's separated into 6 chapters this time. Twice as many as the previous discs. So we'll start with chapter 7, which is Eremius gives a speech. Eremius is the name of the main criminal who's coming to town, and we start this section with they found the little girl dead, and they're all sort of awake for her, and Eremius is the person who talks. Basically, he gives a speech, as it says. Basically, he makes the town feel bad about themselves, and then he says that he's found a place where he wants to build a new farm, and all he needs is money from everybody in the town, and they can all go live there, work there, and everything will be fantastic. So they all agree and give money because he's made them feel bad. A short little chapter really, and then we've got chapter 8, which is perspective from the front, which we see people packing, getting ready to go. They all go off and walk. They leave the bartender, and they tell him to fuck off, and he gets upset because obviously he's going to lose business. They're walking down the road and they realise that they've left the doctor. Nobody seems to care, so they carry on walking. They get to this place and it's run down and it's a complete shithole, and they're all miserable and sort of wishing they hadn't spent all their life savings on this investment that probably ain't going to go so well. And there's no sign of Eremius. I keep forgetting his name, Eremius. He's nowhere to be seen. So they all try and go to sleep basically in the big hall. Chapter 9 is Go to Heaven, Have Nightmares, where we follow Eremius and his partner in this, whose name I forget. It begins with an R, and a young lad who's helping him, and they go to a bar. They walk for quite a while, and he kind of gets freaked out by some fog for a while. Eremius. They get to this bar, and he mentions that he's blackmail. That he's not blackmail, so that he's scamming all the people, and that he's just taking the money basically. And he demands a room and a meal from this bar where they're staying, and they get the meal, and he dictates a letter to a captain, and then this guy comes along, who I'm not sure if he is the captain or not. I can't remember now. I'm kind of forgetting this chapter quite a bit. If I remember correctly, the captain, or the man who comes in, is somebody in charge anyway, who's doing a deal with, and I think it's for the work. I think it's for work, or it might be for the I think it's for work, for the townspeople, and they're discussing that, and I think that's where the scene ends. I think it ends after they. Oh no, it ends with them. They go to bed. They go to bed in this little sort of back room. And then we've got perspective from the rear, where we're back at the house now, this big grotty, run-down house, and everyone's starting to freak out a bit that Eremius, he's not anywhere to be seen still. He said he'd be there, but he's not. So they start taking it out on... I can't remember who they take it out on now. I think they take it out on... Futake. I think they take it out on Futake. Anyway, they're kicking him in and that, and saying you made us spend all his money. And then Eremius shows up and he's saying you didn't trust me. This is bad. It's the first problem, and you didn't trust me. But anyway, there is a problem, he says, and he basically says to him that you can't stay here, the council's not allowing it, you've got to go into work, I've arranged jobs for all of you, and I'm going to put you all into work, and then you work there for a while, and eventually you'll be able to meet up again back here, and you can carry on. We can build this into a farm like we want. So he goes and ships them off. He sends most of them to like menial jobs. Like, there's like a butcher, and there's like basically a butler at a church, I think. But for Futake, he says, I'm going to find my own job, and he wanders off on his own. That's where that chapter ends, and then we're on chapter 11, Just Trouble and Work, which is a strange chapter that appears out of nowhere, where we've got these two clerks in a room, and they are reading out a letter about all the townspeople. Really nasty things written about them, saying they're like fat, lazy, stupid, incompetent, smell bad, like just calling them nasty things, and they're rewording it so that it's still saying the same thing, but it's like they're cushioning it a little bit. They're sort of making it more passive, and that's all that happens in that chapter. Basically, they discuss changing it around, and that they say that like that Mrs. Schmidt is basically a whore. They say that Futaki's dangerous, and then chapter 12, No Way Out, wasn't expecting it, but it's another chapter about the doctor. It's all about him. Basically, he gets back from the hospital. I think he says he was there for 13 days, and he gets back to his house from the hospital to find that nobody's in town anymore. Everybody's left. You don't realise at first. He takes some of his brandy and he has a cigarette, and he realises how quiet it is and that. He goes for a walk because he hears something, and it turns out it's a man in a building hitting a bell, saying the Turks are coming, repeatedly. He thought it was something else, so he heads off back home and he thinks he's going crazy. So he boards his window up and speaks something a bit poetic about just about the town and stuff like that, about the mud and the town and the grottiness and that. And that's where we end the film. We leave on just sort of a simple sort of poem over a black screen, and then credits roll. Wow. Overall, a fantastic film. It really is an experience. It's a bit of an ordeal. I'd say towards the last hour and a half, my head started to hurt, and I was just sort of getting a bit drained from it all. The third disc was definitely had the most happening in it, which is personally is fantastic, because you've got the first disc, which is kind of medium. You've kind of got like it's slow paced, but it's got stuff happening. And then you got the second disc, which is really slow, really drawn out, really atmospheric. And then you got the third disc, where a lot is like crammed into it. 7 hour running time. Personally, I wouldn't change it. I think that 7 hours is perfect for this film. I'd definitely watch it again, but it's intended to be watched in 3 parts. It's not intended to be sat down and watched in its entirety. So I've been told by someone anyway. I don't know how far I don't know how far to believe that. I'm gonna have to look that one up. But I would definitely want to see it again, and I think that the next time I see it, I'll separate it into the 3 discs. Very bleak, very atmospheric, very beautiful, very just fantastic shots, fantastic acting, fantastic timing. Everything's placed exactly where you want it to be. Everything looks how you want it to look. Bleak and grim, but like mesmerising at the same time. I would rate it 4.5 out of 5. It's losing out because there were some points where, well, there were just points where I was wanting it to pick up a little bit. There was bits where I was confused as to who was who and what was happening. I didn't know that the clerks were clerks until one of the very last lines in that section that mentioned, it says like the clerks left, and I'm like, right, so that's where they were. I thought they might have been policemen, I thought they might have been like social workers or something. I had no idea what they were, but it turns out that they were clerks. Yeah, a little bit ambiguous, but it does leave it up to your imagination, and that's fantastic. Not a clear ending, but how can they really end a film that lasts 7 hours and you be satisfied? Personally, I was satisfied with it all the way through. 4.5 out of 5. Definitely recommend it if you've got a spare day, or split it up into 3 sections. Personally, I can't believe I've just watched it. And I'll leave it there.